Bonnie, and about me, Newport News Shipyard 1 year, apprenticeship at the Navy Yard 4 years, structural, led first time jobs, was the supervisor that restored the reactor compartment, structurally, did a polycan job, developed tools, went to soup ship Portsmouth, became a SBS, was an SBS, production controller, a type desk officer, assistant project manager, and a project manager. And then I taught SBS for 6 years, and I've been at QED for 1 year as an APS. So I've been on both sides, government, now the government contractor, and QED really offers a lot. And since I've been here, I can say I'm impressed. Because a lot of the stuff, different departments and all, being on the government side, I didn't realize all the different people they have. Now I do. So before we get into this right here, ship repair, there's 3 things that we look at: cost, quality, and schedule. Okay, and Tim talked about cost, the importance of having good cost, because each of the port engineer does the maintenance and modernization business plan every year, and then they get controls, C&O controls, CM controls, AF controls for material, and they put that class F estimate. But what they do their business plan on is the number of controls they get. So we got to make sure that the cost is close. So we know we don't want QED to write 1,000 or more work items, and the government's got money for this available. So it's very important for that. Quality, you can't compromise quality. Schedule, if you ask the fleet admirals and everybody, that's the most important thing. Ships aren't making schedule. Since they want the firm fixed price, they're not making schedule. One ship belongs to a group of ships. So how can we improve the ships getting out on time? It's right here. Is having better work items, having clear, concise work items with diverse interpretation. You know, if I came to you today at 1 o'clock said, and I was your boss, I said, hey, have a nice weekend, be safe. Your interpretation might be, he's letting me leave. Okay? He might just be saying he's leaving. So it's like that with everything else. When I used to have a ship, I would tell the SDAES to give it the lead superintendent of each work item and review it, because they didn't write the work item. The awarded contractor didn't write the work item, to make sure that their interpretation of the work item was the same prior to start. If it's different, we could fix it. Okay? But this right here is the meat and potatoes for success, is to make sure we have good work items. Okay? So what we're going to talk about now, this is the overview of the specification review process. Some people call work items, some people call it specifications. So work item specification is the same thing. And most of the time, if you don't understand something with the acronyms, you need to ask questions, okay? We're going to tell you how we prepare for a specification review. Okay, the key participants involved, we're going to examine the procedures, where we do it, the actions to be taken upon its conclusion, and to highlight the key aspects to define a successful specification review. The course offers an introductory overview of the specification review. How do the work items even get generated? Okay, all of us in this room, a lot of y'all play key parts in it. Every 2 years, there's a C&O availability for each ship. Okay, in between that, they have CMAPs, they have WOOs, they have emergent avails. Okay, so depending on where you all work, you know, some are C&O planners, some are CMAP planners, some are ship checkers, and if we had port engineers, there's As soon as we finish executing one CNO avail, they start planning for the next one immediately, okay? So people at QED, this is what we do. How do we make the ships make schedule? We got to have good work items, okay? The government, they're right here with us. They go over this, we go over with them to make sure we're on the same page and there's no diverse interpretation. So what is specification review? When does it occur? How to prepare for it? We're going to talk about 4 key aspects and we're going to conclude. Okay. Specification review is a meeting with QED's Advanced Planning Support Team and the Government Maintenance Team. So the APS, Advanced Planning Support, that's what I do at QED. I have 3 ships, Gravely, Truxton, and now McFall. It's my job to interact with the government, okay, communicate with them, the project manager, port engineer, the PSC, project support engineer, to make sure that the package that's developed is clear, concise. We use lessons learned, historical data, RCC analysis to have the best work package for the execution phase and to make schedule, okay? And when we do this specification review, we're in a meeting room. A lot of times it's the one right down the hall, and we go over each work item in each paragraph. But what has to be done before we get to that specification review? That's what we're going to talk about now. Okay. The WN, when it's created, sometimes SurfMet creates them, port engineers, SurfMet pushes them, routines, assessments to the port engineer. Port engineer gets them from the ship, from work that needs to be done, that didn't get done last time. They do DFSs, okay, mandatory stuff that's got to get done. It's pushed over and they screen it to an availability, CMAP, CNO. So if they screen it to a CNO availability, they push it, port engineer pushes it to the project manager. He does a tasking memo that comes to us. We accept the tasking memo, and then we begin the process by putting the WNs on work items, okay? And it goes through different stages: preliminary, okay, review, et cetera, until it gets to planning for review verified, okay? When it gets to planning for review complete, the APS takes the work item. And there's a big checklist. I'm just going to quickly go over them just to let you know how we get there. Is it complete? The routing sheet. Every work item has a routing sheet. It has QA, okay, QED, QA. QED planning supervisor has reviewed the work item after it's been done. The APS looks at all the references in the work item, see if there's any restricted references, okay? Make sure that if they're non-restrictive, that they're in NMD. This is part of the review process. Make sure the work item against the WN is complete. Check the WN and make sure the scope is in the work item, okay? We look at the ship check reports if they're required. A lot of times the ship checkers will tell us that we need a PCFR, okay? We'll write a PCFR. Sometimes the WN's not written right, we'll write a PCFR to get clarification prior and while we're writing the work on the planners. Make sure it's in compliance with JIFM 4E, Chapter 7. We validate the long lead time material, and 5. And you go to what Tim was showing you, ship MD, okay? And you go to CNA, and we look at the material, the status of the material. The material comes out, when they say it's submitted to the APS, then the APS submits it to the government through they generate an email, then it goes to logistics. project manager approves the material, then we send it ready for MRQT. And while we're doing our review, we make sure in NMD, the work guide, the paragraph 5.1, where the material is listed, that the cost is listed in the JML tab. Okay, that's another one of our checks. If you have a MML, mandatory material list, we check that and see if it's on there. The current avail I'm doing right now, the MML, is not even out. Okay. A lot of work items don't even have material. Okay. Any PCFRs written, ship check, or whatever, discrepancies have been corrected. Once the APS approves, verifies, Planning Board reviews the work item, the government gets it. Okay, and that's where we're at right now. Once they get it, the Planning Board, okay. Government provides external review comments via engineering and QA departments in NMD. So if you go in NMD and you have all the work items, you hit the work item, and then the work item shows up at the top, there's going to be external review. Before we go to planning, before we have our spec review meeting, the government engineering and QA has had to make external review comment. Okay. QED has to read that comment. Okay. A lot of times, what I will do is I'll read the comment, but I won't put red. I could put a comment in there, but I won't put red because it looks like it's done. There might be something that needs, based from the external review comment, something needs to be incorporated, the work item needs to be edited, needs to be changed. Okay? So usually, the way I do it is once they're read, QA and engineering, and changes have been made, we're ready for the spec review. Okay? So government provides external review comments via government engineering and QA departments. You have to stay on top of the government. And if the government was in here, I would say this is a very important thing because some people look at it like this. My avail I currently working got moved to the right 6 months. They changed the SSP number, we moved everything over. Wow, we got plenty of time. Okay. Yeah, we got better time to make the work items better, not just, we're not gonna mess with them for a while. So as soon as they're ready for them to review, I send them emails. These are ready to review. And then I remind them because I'm constantly talking to them. So what's how can we be successful in communication, okay, in anything you do? External review comments have been addressed by the APS or planner and marked red. Okay. Now what we have, then once all this is done, the APS sends an invite out. I send the invite out, a calendar invite. I put location of the class, the participants, which we're going to get ready to talk about, and I send an attachment of the work items that we're going to be reviewing, and also I send the external review comments. In NMD, there's a place you can go to pull up all the external review comments, check the work items that you're going to be going over. The same thing with the work items. Send that to them on the invite. Reserve the conference room. Usually do the one right down here. Then we have our work spec review. So government reviews and provides comments. APS plan reviews, addresses the comments. APS planner marks work item as read. Once all the external review comments are incorporated, if they need to be. A lot of times, no comments to be incorporated. Sometimes the government will say stuff and they're wrong. Okay. We look at the JIF 4E, we look at other comments that we did, and we answer them. I just can't blow off the government and not answer it. There will be an answer. And if I don't know how to answer it, I will find the answer. Okay. APS coordinates and schedules the spec review. That's where I do the invite. So, based on what you see right here, what would you, how would you answer this? When does a specification review occur? After the work item and status is ready for review. I think that should be complete. Planning for complete. No, I'm sorry, it should be verified. That's fine. I'll talk to you all. After government provides external comments via government engineering and QA and M&D, after APS and plan review and address external comments, mark as read at M&D, after the work notification is received. So what all of these answers would you select? D? Kind of all of them, right? Is that, well, the only one, well, it's ready for review, okay? The government provides external reviews and comments in MD after the APS and plan review and address mark is read. So really C, to me, is that right? Or all?
A, B, C.
A, B, and C? Okay. So A, B, and C is the answer. But I was going to talk to you all about that. But the notification received a long time ago. Okay. So it says mark all. We got it ready for review. The government provides external review comments for engineering and QA, and the APS and plan review and address external review comments. All right, now the participants. These are the people that's going to be on the invite from the APS. I always put my two supervisors that I have. I put their boss, okay, the manager, okay. I put the planner, the planning supervisor, assistant planning supervisor, and sometimes I put a planner. Let me give you an example. We were writing a work item for the trucks and with flex hoses, and the planner, based on the ship checks, the port engineer, there was a lot of confusion. So I had a meeting. I did it in the beginning of my spec review, where I had the planner that was writing this for the work item for the flex hoses. The port engineer was already there. The key players were there, and I told the planner, the port engineer gave them a heads up, and they were able to iron it out. When they left, the planner knew exactly how to write that work out. Okay, you can use meetings to like this. I was a meeting guy when I was with the government because 10 minds are better than one. Okay, you can resolve issues. So we invite the QED people. Now on the government side, it's the project manager and the port engineer. They're the two that are required. Okay, remember that, project manager, port engineer. I always invite the PSC, project support engineer. It's highly recommended that they come. They do. SurfMet comes, okay? The combat systems support engineer comes. The GAPM, the government advanced planning manager, which is right over here downstairs, they come. Okay, it's very important that they come. You invite these people. If you have an assigned SBS, you put them as optional. On the ship that I just got an email that I got a lead SBS. Every ship out there should have a lead SBS if they're not in execution on another ship. How to prepare for a spec review. Okay, when I send my invite, I send the work items, work specifications to the participants with the external review comments, and I expect them to review it. Not just, okay, I'll see it at me, and I tell them that. Prior to start in the planning of an availability, we do a kickoff brief, okay? And that kickoff brief, the APS explains to the maintenance team this process right here. How we get the spec review, okay? What the communication, okay? So, and this is all explained. So they'll review the work items, and then we'll get to the meeting. Okay. The ship check reports is very important. The ship checks, I just got a list this morning where they did, I don't know, 100 on the McFall. Okay, McFall's a big dry docking valve coming up. They just moved it to the right. They did a ton of ship checks. The ship checkers will put on there if a PCFR is recommended based on their experience. Okay, we take the ship checks, we upload the APS in NMD for that work on. Excuse me. And we also review them. And if a PCFR is recommended, we'll write. Okay. Why do we write PCFRs? For objective quality evidence, OQE. I can sit here and tell you, talk to you and say, what do you think about that, Dave? Well, I really don't think we need it. In the back of my mind, from my experience, you kind of need it. So if I just don't do nothing, you might tell me 6 months later, I told you to do it. So objective quality evidence, cover our rear end, is why we write PCFRs for OQE. Okay, what is not a required participant of a spec review? Project manager's got to be there. Port engineer's got to be there. Who does the spec review? APS. So the planner, like I said, is not required, but I always put them on the invite. And if I need them for certain things, I say you got to be there. Okay. What happens in a spec review? Okay, kind of like this. Have my computer hooked up. I'll have the work items up here that you got on the invite. We go over each work item paragraph by paragraph. Okay. If you say you need a change, I'll write it down. Sometimes I make it right there in the room. Okay. So at the end of the day, when they're out there in execution and they go, this is a bad work item, it's not QED's fault. All the constant reviews that we've had, ship checks, all the communication, the emails, everything, sitting in a room, going over a work item, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, are you okay with that? It's not QED's fault. Even after the spec review, if the maintenance team would come to me as an APS and say, I want to change, I need to change, man. Absolutely. We'll keep changing. Okay? Our goal is to make this work item clear, concise, accurate, per the WM, per the ship check, to have the ship a chance to make schedule maintenance team. Okay? And we can do it, but it's a lot of different parts. But this meeting is where it all comes together. Okay? So we look at, sometimes they write ESRs. The PSC will write an ESR, engineering service request, asking about something. We cannot put the ESR in the work item, but we can reference the number and take the verbiage out of it and put in the work item. The contractor in execution, awarded contractor, does not get a copy of the ESR either. Okay? Examine the scope, title, location of work, etc. Review the references, what we talked about. Review the requirements of the work item template. Examine the materials and quantity. Ensure a DFS. If a DFS is, this work item is written because of a DFS, it's going to be referenced in paragraph 4.1. Okay? A lot of, like, my last avail when I worked with the government, I had like 40 DFSs. Every single one, I had 4.1, which this work item is satisfying this DFS, deviation from specification. They got an expiration date on when they got to be done. So I got all them done, and I came down to availability with like 30 new ones. Okay, so name of the game, the way it works. All right, moving. Do We have a little movie right here as if we were doing the meeting, okay? Y'all know Paul, he's the APS doing this.
All right, so we're here for the spec review. We have two less work specs to get us to our publish for USS Fort Lauderdale. We have 233-14-001 and 508-11-002. So we are going to review 233-14-001 first. This work item is very cut and dry. We have our external comments that have been read and answered. We had a ESR, and all the information for the ESR was answered here. And our work spec is as follow here for number 2 Bravo main propulsion engine fuel oil leak-off box. It's very cut and dry for the EATP, accomplished the requirements, and double an I-32 with the material that is our critical material. Here. Other than that, it's everything. Do you have any issues with this work spec?
I reviewed it and I'm okay with it. How about you, Rick?
I'm good with it.
All right. Well, with that being said, we will move on to our next work item, which is 508-11-002. And this is for the inside machinery lagging and insulation replacement. We had 2 external comments, both were read. There was no issues from the PSC from reviewing this work spec. And as we get to the item here, come through, we had the 500 feet of bulkhead insulation. These are our normal lineup for what we front load for lagging. Now, if you want to increase these items, we can do that because being the lagging insulation work item here. So if you want to add anything to this.
3.11, we want to change to 1,000 square feet.
So 311 to 1,000 feet, okay.
And 314, we want to change that to 250 linear feet.
All right, and that one will be 250. All right, okay. And then we also have front-loaded 200 square feet of contamination for mold removal in this as well.
We want to change that to 400 square feet.
You want to change that to 400. Copy. And that is pretty much the gist of the rest of the work item here. There's no material. Is there any other issues with that?
Not for me. How about you?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
All right. With that being said, I will make them changes. I will email you at the end of this once the items have been changed, so you can put both of these work items into package, and that would get us to our for being packaged for this avail.
Sounds good.
All right. Anybody else have anything for this? All right. Well, thank you very much for coming out here. And I will email you when this is done.
So that's kind of what happens in the work spec review. You can see they already made external review comments, they made QA comments, but during the spec review, they still wanted changes. All right, so now we're talking about what we do after we do this meeting. We make, as you saw in the video, project manager said, yeah, change some, level front loading, added some linear feet, changed some quantity. But what do we do to document what we just, the meeting? Okay, like I said, we need objective quality evidence, so we do an after action report, acronym AAR, okay? Documents the results of each work item that was reviewed. So basically, I have a template that has the heading and all. You put the participants on it, you put the date of the meeting, okay? And then I fill in, like we did 15 work items, I list all the work items, the title of the work item, and then I put what we changed. Like some work items would be no action required. In other words, they're okay with everything. Some might be like where we changed the quantity, changed so many linear feet on paragraph so-and-so, did this on so-and-so. Now after that, when I write a PCFR to take the after action report, put it in NMD for permanent record, okay? So it's OQE. Now it's the APS's responsibility to make sure that them changes that come from that meeting, if any, get incorporated, okay? And a lot of times, a lot of these changes are outside the APS's expertise. So I might have to get a plan or, hey, I need you to make these changes, okay? But it's not really complete until that. Now, the the government could still come and say, we want more change, and we just won't. Our goal is to make the work item better. But if you look at all the reviews, external review, QA on the government side, all the reviews that APS does to get it to verified and then give it to the government, and then they have their engineering and QA. Then we sit in a room and go line by line. So we're taking a lot of steps to make sure this work item is a good work item, right? It takes a lot of people, the ship checkers. Everybody involved is what makes this work, okay? So we do the after action report. The APS writes a PCFR, and the after action report from the work spec review is in NMD as a permanent record. Okay, PCFR. We agreed upon the changes, contact the planning supervisor, planner, or directors. Okay. After action report, it must have this. Like I said, it's got meeting date, time, location, individual, completing the report, government project manager, the host, point of contact, the attendees, the meeting purpose, the agenda, and like I said, every work item is listed with the changes made, or if no changes, it'll say no action required. Okay. And can y'all see that? Gonna make it bigger. Can y'all see that? This is kind of what we do. Can you see that? So that's kind of how the report is written. And it's, like I said, it's a permanent record for OQE, objective quality evidence, that's in NMD. Okay. After a spec review, the APS is not required to initiate the after action report, complete the PCFR if needed, forward any information to the planning supervisor. Is that true or false? There you go, it's false. All right, key aspects of the spec review, the work notification's intent must always be reflected in the work item, apply lessons learned. Now see, this is a very, very important part. Me coming from the government most of my career, how do you capture the hiccups and mistakes on other ships for your ship planning, okay? Lessons learned is, I used to do lessons learned briefs. I would sit there and do one for my availability. I would send it to Dave, he would cut something out, send it to you, cut something out, send it to you, cut something out, and then say, Van, you're briefing next week. Well, I would always take my original one because a lot of people that are cutting the stuff, some of it's the meat and potatoes. Okay, they didn't really like that, but the point I'm trying to make is it really, in order to be lessons learned, it has to be documented. But there's a lot of information that I could talk to Dave about and you could tell me that wasn't documented that will make it better, okay? But if I get verbal information for changes, I will have it on a PCFR, okay? For objective quality evidence. But lessons learned, Sean Jones is the guy, and they come up with a new form that I really, really like. I don't know if you've seen the ELSA tracker, all these things going to the sideways and everything. I send it to the maintenance team, project manager says he don't even look at it. The new one, which I just sent it yesterday for the McFall, it's a sheet just going straight across with each item. It has the work item, it has the ship, it has the cost, the RCC number, and then it has, do you want to incorporate it or not? Very simple. I just sent one yesterday, and if the maintenance team, if they were sitting in here, I would say you need to review it, and I tell them they need to review it, because these are hiccups on other ships prior to you. We can get it incorporated to save you, so you might make schedule, okay?
Actually, Joe Van Driesen did a spec review, and I went into it and we went over that sheet, the lesson learned sheet, and we went line by line, and we knew when we left there that it was going to be incorporated or not.
Perfect. You know what? That's good, because the next time I have a work spec review, I'm going to take the latest one that they haven't done. I like that. I like that. Because I'm telling you right now, if the government was sitting here, I would say if we all work together, put our minds together, use lessons learned, do all the process that's taken years to come up with, we have a good work item and you have a chance for success and a good schedule, okay? Like I said, since I got here, I'm kind of impressed because there's a lot of things, like all this training. I mean, all the training y'all do is really incredible. That's what I used to do for the last 6 years, but y'all really got some good training. Good training here. All right, what are the key aspects of specification review? Provide the maintenance team with a work item that will accomplish the scope of work required of the work notification without growth during execution. The work notification's intent must always be reflected in the work item. Understand this process a collaborative effort. Apply lessons learned from previous ships and avail all the above. All the above. That makes good sense. In this lesson, you have learned about specification review process to include what is a specification review, when does it occur, how to prepare for one, what happens in a spec review, what do you do after the spec review, and as the 4 key aspects of spec review. Okay,